And good morning and welcome to Touch Base Today. My name is Ron Foster, touching base with you as I do every day. What's going on, folks? How are you doing? Woo! Today. And look, my partner's right there. Let me get my partner on here. Hey,
Good morning,
welcome,
sir.
Chris.
I was like, what's going on? I was in the back watching you. I was like, you didn't see me.
I didn't see you. You were blending in.
How are you today?
Oh man, this we're going to talk about the stock market today. We're going to talk about some things I think you probably could glean from as a community and understand what it means to be in a bull market. What does it mean to be in a bear market? What is it when you hear the terms bear on Wall Street? What is it when you hear bull on Wall Street? What it is to short sell a stock? What it is to do corporation buybacks? So there's going to be a lot of interesting conversation in regards to what had happened yesterday. And did Trump and his people, were there some insider trading going on? Was there some manipulation of the markets? We need to know those answers to those questions. And Chris Murphy and some of the folks in Congress are now doing an investigation. They want to create an investigation panel. They want to create legal investigations because you had Trump's tweet that went out beforehand saying it's time to buy. And then he put DJT, which is the symbol of his stock. And so people are in the uproar. It has been going in high volume across the cyber world, on cyber social media. People are saying, is this a con game? Have Americans been played? Americans are suffering. Meanwhile, these people are making money. Chris.
So I think there's more than one thing going on here, and I always defer to Rachel Maddow. She had a great show again last night, and she talked about the reason for the tariff 90-day reprieve, or I call it the retreat. It has nothing to do necessarily with the stock market, but it had everything to do with the bond market.
Yes, and we're going to talk about the bond market.
Yeah, so I thought that because I learned something this morning because I typically listen to it in the morning when I'm in the shower, and I was sitting there like, this is so interesting. I never would have known that if I didn't hear that whole conversation, and it makes so much sense. I think there was some manipulation going on also, and Trump always tells on himself.
Always.
Like he had some millionaires and billionaires in the Oval Office yesterday after all this went down. He was saying, oh, how this person made a couple billion, a couple million, and they made really good money yesterday. And that was intentional. And only the people that have money can profit and make those gains. Regular folks like us who want to be in the stock market, we've lost tons of money. And you don't have disposable income like that to go back and buy stocks. And if you missed yesterday, you missed it. Kevin O'Leary was on Don Lemon earlier, and he said,
Lord have mercy.
Yeah, I know. We can get into that later, but you lost that 4% bump that you could have gotten by buying stocks yesterday. So,
yes.
But anyway, I'll let you continue.
Yes, sir. And it is disgusting and despicable. And first of all, let's just look at the people that surround Trump. Let's just look at all the people that surround. They're all a lot of these people are criminals. They're criminals. They've been arrested. They served time. Some of them have gotten away. Some have been pardoned. Some have gone to jail, been pardoned from jail. These are criminal people. They are criminals to the heart. Beginning with the top piece of cheese.
It's the mafia in the White House.
It's a mafia.
It's the Sopranos.
And he's always ran his companies like he's running the mafia because he got that from what's his name?
Father.
Not his father. The what the lawyer, the big lawyer.
Oh,
That
I know you're talking about. I can't remember his name right now. Someone in the chat say his name.
My something Cone. He
Mike,
always
yeah,
says
Cohen. Cole.
not Cohen, not Michael Cohen. The other the Cone.
Yeah,
Anyway,
the fixer, his
the
fixer.
fix. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
this is the guy that trained him during, he was around with Nixon and all the other stuff. This is an old dude now, but I mean, well, he's dead now, but he was an old dude. But
Yeah.
anyway, let's say hello before we dive in. Lee's in the back, so we're gonna get Lee's on here as well. Hannah says, "Good. Oh, new graphics. They keep changing my graphics every time I go from flip." This is why I said this little StreamYard. Y'all be trying to play with me. Y'all trying to play with me. This is not classic. We love minimum. It resets sometimes. Sometimes it resets.
No, this is one of the reasons why we decided to leave StreamYard. I mean, I'm all for enhancing and changing stuff up, but like, get people notice. And because typically what they do is they make their changes, and then like a week or so later, you get an email saying, "Oh, exciting changes." But then if you're someone like you who goes on every day and relies on certain things, and then you get changes during the middle of the show, like, that's not cool.
Well, they every time, because when you change, it resets, and you're like, "Why is it resetting?" When I use all these things every day, they're right there.
Yeah.
Anyway, good morning, Ron and Chris and Touch Base Daily family, says the wonderful Hannah. Speaking of Hannah was playing big time last night. We had our game night last night. We also added a mini crossword puzzle into the game's lineup, and we did Wordle. We had mini crossword puzzle, all the New York Times games. And so shout out to the New York Times for their wonderful games. You want me to be a sponsor? You want to be a sponsor here? You could sponsor us as we play your games. New York Times, we did Wordle, crossword puzzles, our regular connections. And then we always get the night going with Spelling Bee. And we had a great time last night with Spelling Bee. We even had a young lady named Michelle came in from New Zealand. She was playing with us. And so it was great. We had a great time. You miss out. We do it every Sunday night, every Wednesday night, every Friday night. Sunday night because it begins the week. Wednesday night because everybody needs to get through the hump day. And then Friday is the end of the work week for most people.
Listen, I give it to you. You're on it. I can't keep up with you.
Jazzy says, "Good morning, beautiful people." Elise says, "Good morning, everyone." And also Bryson says, "What's up, Ron? What's up, Chris? What's up, RLP fam? What's up, CQ fam? Happy Law and Order Thursday, aka 911 Thursday, aka Friday Eve, as y'all three."
So hold on, Bryson. Just so you know, nothing came on. Well, no. So I take that back. The show that normally, I don't know if there's going to be new shows tonight, because a lot of the NBC shows, I don't know, they weren't on this week, because the stuff that I watched, like on some other channels, didn't come on either. So let's cross our fingers. They do like these little breaks, like a break here, a break to stretch out the season, because it has to go to the end of May.
Same thing with Hulu right now. I mean, they got the Paradise reruns. I'm like, just bring us give us part 2.
Well, I mean, that is the next season's not going to come out till next year. But for those that that have Hulu, Handmaid's Tale is the final season is out.
It is? It's out already?
It just came out, I believe, last week. They released the first 3 episodes, and then I think what they're doing is they're staggering them, so like 3 episodes at a time. So the first 3 are out right now. I haven't watched it yet. Wow. I'm gonna binge watch it.
This is the last season.
The first 3 are out. Yes, this is the last season.
And speaking of Handmaid's Tale, here in New York City on Saturday, I think it was.
I saw that.
They had I think it was like a dozen of women, maybe 20, that were marching through Bryant Park, and they went to the steps near the fountain, and they were in the Handmaid's Tales red with the bonnets.
Yeah.
Quite striking, making a statement, right? Talk about making a statement, because this is where we are. People, remember, people that keep people out are also going to try to keep you in. So remember that when people are building walls to keep people out, they eventually will take those walls to keep you in.
Yep.
Remember that. Remember that. I am Miss Reese says, good morning, RLP cousins. Yes, right. Yes, right. I am Miss Reese is in the building. Jazzy says, inside trading from the topic we're talking about today. And Elise says, this was definitely insider trading and stock manipulation.
Yeah,
And if this was
absolutely.
another country doing it, we will automatically call it market manipulation.
Yep.
There you go. Elise says, good morning, Hannah. La 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 la. Let's see all the good mornings. And then Shirley says, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Elise says, good morning, Ron and Chris. And Jazzy says, good morning to everyone. All the good mornings in there. Bryson, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Jazz. Good morning, Hannah. And here's Hannah. Hannah says, it's always loads of fun. Game night is loads of fun. New York Times game night is loads of fun. We call it Touch Base Daily Twitch at night because it really was supposed to be on Twitch. And we are on Twitch. And some people do come through Twitch because Twitch is really for gamers. That's the connection.
Yeah.
Anyway, but we still use our YouTube because our family is on YouTube. Good morning, good morning, good morning. I see all the good mornings. I see the good mornings. And I see Kelly says good morning. Also, make sure you smash the likes. Make sure you smash the like. And we also have Dr. Tachi's in the building. She says good morning. And Kelly says, I think Law and Order is on tonight and new episodes.
Okay, cool. So that's something to watch tomorrow.
We have Jamel Shabazz in the building. Grand Rising family. Jamel, we gotta figure out a way. Jamel, I think I have to bring it up somewhere. But anyway, shout out to Jamel Shabazz. They have also celebrated him with his books, his pictures in the museum, and there was a white glove event where they're taking out all his photos out of a box. And there is like a collection at the museum. I think is it the Museum of New York City? But let me know, Jamel, our brother here. We support you. We congratulate you. It is awesome to see that you are getting your flowers because you are well deserved of your flowers, sir. Lee says, good Grand Rising, Jamel. And we have in here, congratulations. Yes, I always want to celebrate our artists, our creatives, and most of all, our photographers. Okay, so let's begin. First of all, while we bring Elise on, let me show you something on the screen here because it's gonna. I don't like listening to this guy, but for the point of what I want to share, I think we have no choice. So let me cue that in right there and
audio.
This is still a problem. Trump is saying other countries have been reaching out to make deals. Well, of course, you're going to reach out when you look at this kind of situation. But Trump was also very clearly rattled through the reporting by how things could get far worse than the drops I showed you leading into this morning.
Despite Donald Trump blinking on a bunch of the big disastrous tariffs on like the whole world, including like Madagascar and the island with the penguins, he announced today he's not just maintaining but increasing his tariffs on China, which is one of our largest trading partners. And among the Americans who will almost immediately feel the pain are farmers, because China buys a lot of their product and will slap tariffs on in response. Alex Wagner has been doing amazing reporting on the impact of Trump's policies on the ground. Went to North Carolina to talk to former farmers about Trump's tariffs and what it means for their future and their livelihood.
Agriculture, there's about 85% of what happens on my farm that is completely out of my control.
Yeah.
So I have to do the very best I can at managing that 15% of inputs and costs and labor and marketing and signing the best contract and doing the best job that I can, and leave the other 85% up to the good Lord. And that's all we can do, whether it's weather or disease or a hailstorm or a pandemic or administration. And we just weather the storm.
It's kind of a wait and see game. I mean, I think the main thing is it's not to overreact and get too nervous. I mean, stay the course. That's what's helped us, all of these generations of farmers stay in the course and doing what we do best and being efficient, not spending money when we don't need to spend money, and just keeping our, ears open and eyes open and being able to pivot when we can.
Here with me now is Alex Wagner, MSNBC senior political analyst and host of the Trumpland podcast. I loved those quotes because I think it's actually a profound insight, like a genuinely profound insight, and also like explains a lot of why a lot of folks are like, yes, we're just going to sort of see where it all goes.
I think, it was interesting being in Clayton, North Carolina yesterday as, Wall Street's melting down. The financial world is flipping out. Investors are calling Trump. People can't get through. It's a different reality in red state America. All the people that I talked to at that table have voted for Trump at least once, if not multiple times. And in part because of that, but I think largely because of the attitude you have to take when you are a farmer. You are more sanguine. You are more accepting of external chaos. But I kept saying, this isn't hurricanes. This isn't weather. This isn't an act of God. This is Donald Trump making very clear decisions that put you in financial peril. And it's not just that they sell their, goods to China. It's that they need farm equipment. They need lots of supplies that are manufactured in China. And they've already spent that money, Chris. The way it goes with a commodities trade is you've already put the money in the ground for the seed, the fertilizer, the equipment, the labor. They just got to hope come harvest time that they can sell it at a decent price and don't lose money. And Trump has thrown all of that up in the air, right? But what's so interesting, I think, is the empathy they feel with him insofar as the project of correcting a trade imbalance that they see has been decades in the making. The kinship they feel with him in his political project to break things and upend the status quo, and the fundamental and unspoken belief that if it all does go to hell in a handbag, as it did in 2018, Donald Trump will make sure they are made whole. So I'm speaking of the bailouts that were offered, the money, the assistance that was granted to farmers in the last Trump trade war with China in 2018. And I asked them about that and whether that was something they expected and what they thought of other people who might not be so keen on that idea.
Can I say something about these folks? Well, first of all, good morning, Elise.
Good morning.
Good morning. These folks are absolutely, it is a cult on a level that is beyond Jim Jones. I mean, it's like, these people are losing everything. The tariffs are going to cause them to lose everything. And yet they are still excited about keeping to the course. And yet also, she's gonna, because she goes on later and says, and they still will vote for him again.
Of course they'll vote for him again. He voted. He represents them.
He is them.
He is them.
The ignorance, the stupidity,
the hatred.
It's
all there.
They will vote for this guy again. I mean, the markets have been all over the place. We've watched the first time. Is it the first? Yeah, first time in American history, the market moved 3,000 points almost in one trading day. 3,000 points. Now, I will tell you, we're going to talk about this, and I would love for you guys have questions. I will try to answer them, because I could be your board here for that. On this subject, I do know something. I'm not on Wall Street today, and I'm not analyzing stocks and all that stuff, but I did work on Wall Street for 15 years. And I did work at the stock exchange. or at the American Stock Exchange. I know what it is, what is options, what are stocks, what are commodities, what are bonds, all of that stuff, and put a pin on that word bonds. Bonds. Because you want to know, well, let's go straight into it. People are saying, why did Trump turn around? Why did he cave? Why did he change his position? Because remember also, the day before, there was a rumor started that he was going to do the 90-day reprieve. But they said, oh, no, that's a rumor. And then less than 24 hours, we're doing 90 days.
I don't know if you all saw, there's a video of him, an older video that says he likes to buy low.
Yes, all rich people do.
So and so that's what I'm saying. That's why to me it's all intentional, because that's what he wanted to do. He wanted it to drop so he could just he and all the other billionaires can end up buying.
Yes.
And then when it shot up, when he gave the extension, they knew exactly what was going to happen, because I mean they're all in cahoots.
Yes. Well, this is something that you're taught on Wall Street. You're taught, and again, hit the likes out there because it looks like our people. Just let people know that we're here. The number one thing you learn about being on Wall Street: you buy low and sell high. That is the fundamental truth of the stock market. And rich people, when the market goes down, is in their heads, the market is on sale. It's time to buy more stock. It's time to buy more stock. When the market goes down, especially a big move, that means, wow, let's get in. Let's get some stocks. And then, because always remember, no matter how low the market goes, it's always going to come back. Now, over time, how long it takes to come back, that's another story.
Mm-hmm.
But 9 times out of 10, the market will always come back. It's so, look, we've had with the market during the COVID crisis, the market went all the way down. And then 4 years later, we are hitting records every day under Biden.
Right.
So the market comes back, but it's a matter of who can sustain themselves during that. And then you say, a lot of folks say, well, there's too many poor people in the country, and they think, oh, we're not affected by the stock market. Everybody is affected by the stock market. If you have a pension, it's affected by the stock market. If you have the municipal stuff that's going on in your communities, everything somehow is linked to Wall Street. So let's talk about 2 things that are happening at one time. Like you probably heard during this whole course of, are we in a bear market? Are we in a bear market? And that's when you have 3 consecutive quarters, I do believe 3 consecutive quarters of the market trending downward. So it's not so much how much the market's gone down, is how many down days within a quarter. And it's called the bear market. Why is it called the bear market? Why do people on Wall Street call when stocks go down, the bears are winning today? The bears are in control of the market. It's not because there's real bears out there playing. And it's not because people are fat and you call the fat folks the bears. No, it's because it's a traditional thought. When bears strike, they strike down. And so that's why you get the terminology bear market. When the bears strike at something or their enemy or attack, they strike down. Now, on the other side of the podium or the pendulum is the bull market. When you see people say, "Whoa, the bulls are winning today," at the stock exchange, the bulls are in control. The bulls are winning. The bulls have control of the market today. Or we are in a bull market where the stocks are going up. So under Biden, we've been in a bull market. Consecutive quarters continually going up. Up, 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 up. Now, why is it called the bull market? It's because when a bull strikes the enemy or the bull fights, they go up. They take their horns and they shoot up. And that's why it's called the bull market. So you have the bulls and the bears. So it's kind of just give you some terminology. So those people that are new to, because Wall Street is going to be in the news for the next couple of weeks. And I always say, take advantage of learning what's going on when you have these moments in the media circle or in social circles or people are talking about it. So now when you go to your dinner and and you have those conversations at the networking event, you know a little bit about why it's called the bull market, why it's called the bear market. Also, when stocks drop, when there's a big drop in the stock market, investors run to the bond market. When the stocks go down, people retreat from stocks and they move their money into the bond market. And so in the bond market is where they have shelter through the storm. So as the market is moving and going down, they move their money over to the bond market, which also the bond market is pretty much stable because there's not a lot of action in the bonds. That's why it is financial teaching. You've heard financial advisors say is when you're young, you're heavily invested in stocks. When you are senior, as you get closer to your senior years, you become more heavily weighted in bonds. Okay? Because there's less crazy in the bond market. It's like being on a nice, even ocean, no storms. No storms can get you. But what's happening in the bond market is that you're buying bonds, you're doing bonds, what we call treasury notes and bonds. You're investing and putting money into municipals like city governments, the American government. These are bonds, T-bonds, treasuries, right? So you got all of this stuff, but these are safe havens. And over the years, countries have bought our bonds. So you have Chinese people, the Chinese government has bought bonds in the United States. The Japanese has bought tons of bonds in the United States. And lots of countries buy bonds in the United States because they can buy 5-year yielding treasuries, meaning you buy it and it's a 5-year and it's going to mature to the dollar amount in 5 years. So people are invested in a long-term investment is safe, right?
Right.
What happened yesterday, what happened really at midnight the night before, as we were going into yesterday, something, and Rachel talked about it on her show, something happened that never happens.
Yeah.
It has never happened in American history in the financial markets. This is why Trump made the turnaround.
Yes.
Because it's not so much, he didn't care about the stocks. And there's two things going at the same time. Yes, he could use the situation and his people to make money as the market's going down. However, what happened for the first time in the financial history of America, the bonds began to fall as well.
They were
People
selling them.
were selling their bonds in America. They were like, wait a minute. And Japan took out and sold their bonds. People don't realize that America's debt is also connected to the bond market. And so we depend heavily on the bond market staying secure, the bonds of the United States staying secure, so that we can carry on and hold up our debt.
Yeah, that's really our currency. And that's what the rest of the world looks at, the bond market. And in addition to that, you know, when the stock market is bad, when people are pulling their money out of the Dow and all the S&P, whatever, people put their money into bonds because it's always been there as a reliable thing. You know that your money is going to be safe. And when people pulled out yesterday, it was like, wait a minute, what's going on? Those quote unquote advisors that he has working in the White House came and said, all right, we need to stop this. This is serious.
We are in serious trouble when people start selling off your country's bonds, because then what they have is called our bond ratings. You want to keep your bond rating high, meaning that people can invest in your country because they can get that money back over the 5-year treasury or 10 years, however. When I was a kid, my mother introduced me to bonds when I was a child. My mother, when she first started, my first introduction to finances, my mother buying me bonds when I was a kid. We had these bonds. I was like, what's a bond? Didn't really understand it until I worked on Wall Street. But I remember those bonds my mother gathered when we were kids. Bonds, because you buy it at a low rate. And then, because for instance, people buy bonds for gifts for their children because their children are growing up. So you buy a bond for a 5-year-old, it matures in 10 years, or it matures in 5 years. I do believe there's a 20-year bond. And these bonds mature over time, but you don't need the money because that child is growing up and you don't need the money while the child is growing. So it's in the child's name, it belongs to them. And so now when they become adults, they have money that their parents invested in them when they were kids. The bonds. But again, if the bond market begins to falter at the same time, which again, we've never seen that before. And this is why Trump had to come out and say, I'm in, as he's done with, as this administration has done with everything. We put the wrong people in prison. We let go of the people that are the nuclear people that are going to be in charge of our nuclear arsenal. The Trump administration is the administration. Because they don't think before they act. They don't think about all the ramifications that are going to happen. Okay, Elise, you want anything you want to throw into there?
Did
I break it down clear? Was that clear? Was that a clear explanation?
Yeah, you did a great job. But to me, it's like a bunch of little boys playing in the play yard, like trying to see what they can do and how they can outdo someone, and finding out they're really not as great as they thought they were. And so you play these dangerous games, and everybody, and there's no who do they have that's an actual expert on anything over there that has enough information? Because they're talking about this guy he listened to on the financial end and how he made up someone that he was saying he was getting advice from. I was like,
it was himself.
And it was just
Navarro's an idiot.
Right. But but you listen to people like that, and then he's been bankrupt 6 times.
Yes.
You know, he can tank this country. And, and I have heard over time about bond countries and their bond ratings, which is important. And so for ours to start going down and people not understand what's happening in this country and to think, oh yeah, 90 days, he's going to come back and try to play another game. But the other countries are not playing the game.
No, they are not.
We're not.
Well, can I say something to that? Because, him coming on in his true social posts and people in the news running with this, how these countries, he's doing the 90-day reprieve because these other countries have come to him saying they want to negotiate. That's a bunch of bull. All these other countries have moved on. They've made agreements with other countries. Europe is doing all their own thing. Canada reaching out to other countries. Mexico and Canada doing their own thing together. So these countries weren't coming to him in the United States to see if they could work it out. Right. It's all about the fact that people were selling up the bonds, and then that's the danger point. That's the only reason why he did the 90-day pause. The only reason. And that's the only reason that stopped the bleeding on Wall Street.
Right.
Yes, because it would have continued on and the market was going to go down. But again, you have the bonds market going down. So also Navarro, the idiot, the mouth behind the ear. Now, there's 2 things that also happened. There was another thing that happened yesterday that was unique for the moment. Where was Elon?
Well, they've been fighting for the past couple of days.
For all of this time, you've seen Elon at every meeting, every event that goes on. Elon is there. But what happened to Elon yesterday?
Well, they've been fighting over those tariffs all weekend. So.
They've been fighting on the tariffs.
Well, because he's lost so much money because of it.
Can I tell you something about the stock market? I'm not saying Elon's done this, but this is possible. People don't understand. This is when I was in college and I studied economics, and my teacher used to laugh at we had to do mock-up stock simulations. And every time my stock would go down, every time I saw an opportunity for my stock to go down, my professor would say, Mr. Foster, what are you going to do? I said, as a company owner, this is my great chance to do what's called the stock buyback. So every time my market went down, if the market went down in our simulation, they were like, Ron, where'd you learn it? I said, well, I work on Wall Street, so that I'm cheating because I went to school. I went to college while I was, on Wall Street. So I would go in every time and buy up my own stock, because by buying up your own stock, in the long run, you add value to your stock because it's less of it in the public arena. So I would go in and buy up more stock. Also, it gave me more ownership of my company versus towards the board members who own parts of my company. Because as the owner of the stock or the company, you want to have as many shares of that stock as possible because you want to always maintain 51%. But if you can get 60% or 70%, don't care what the board members do, I'm still going to be in control because I own the majority shares of the stock. So it is speculated that, some people were speculating yesterday, that all of this movement, there's a lot of reasons why this movement, there's a lot of things that could be true at the same time. Elon, the market going down remember Elon was already in bad shape with Tesla.
Right.
Well, as the market continually go down, What do most CEOs, what owners do? They go in and buy up their own stock. Remember, his board members wanted to they want to get rid of him.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
But if he
So
has
he went
owner
in.
membership stakes,
Allegedly, he could have. I mean, we don't know, but maybe
we'll find out though, because they have to file that stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
They're publicly traded companies, so they do have to report it.
Well, this is why Chris Murphy says he wants an investigation on everybody that is surrounding the Trump administration.
Oh, yeah.
Because somebody knew before Trump announced. Because Trump, he announced before he did what he did. He said, hey, guys, time to buy DJT, quote unquote. It's a good time to buy.
That's what I say. Look, my theory was that the Republicans were so upset on Capitol Hill was because of their own stocks.
Yeah.
Because they all own stocks.
Everybody owns stocks.
They were
Everyone
watching
in the Congress
portfolio
owns
drop.
stock.
So that was their whole thing. They were watching that drop, and I'm sure when he said go buy, I'm sure they went out there and bought.
It's time to go.
They weren't at the hearing yesterday.
They weren't at the hearing yesterday.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though.
Republicans.
By the time he said that, it was already too late. The people that were going to buy are already bought because they knew ahead of time.
Well, the other folks, like let's say the insider. Yeah. If there was, and we have to say if there was insider trading,
right?
Of the close people around him,
we will never know because they're not willing to investigate him for anything.
Right.
They're not.
So if those people were close and they knew that the market was because that guy that did the 90-day rumor, well, he got that rumor pretty right.
Yeah, it was reported on Tuesday.
The gentleman, his last name was named Bloomberg.
Yes, you know what?
He wasn't a real Bloomberg. He wasn't a Bloomberg to the Bloomberg family, but he was a Bloomberg.
Was actually, yeah, let me tell you something. A lot of times, this administration, quote unquote, and Donald Trump, they will always project what they're trying to do publicly out in the open. And then for it to happen 2 days later, it's just like, okay. So this guy's reporting probably was correct. But what they tried to do is they didn't want it to come out yet. So they stopped and said, oh, it's all fake news. And then this fake news becomes real news literally less than 48 hours. I didn't even think about that.
As always. Or maybe Homeboy was put out there to let them know it was coming. Who knows? We don't know how this all, we don't know the plan.
Sometimes leaks are intentional. Sometimes leaks are intentional.
Yeah.
And many times the Trump administration has leaked.
And
intentionally.
Hold on. Listen, here's the other thing too. They were testing the water to see what the market would do. Because remember, when it was leaked out that, there's going to be a 90-day reprieve, the stock markets, it swung in the opposite direction instantaneously. And then when the administration came out and said, that's fake news, it tanked again. So that was a great test. It was a litmus test to see what would happen if they did do this. So then now 2 days later, like, yeah, we're going to do a 90-day reprieve. And then, but wait, the one thing we're not talking about is on, I believe it was Tuesday night at 11:59, 125% tariff on China.
Yes.
What sense does that really make? Because guess what? All China's going to do is say, you know what? Okay, 150.
And it's going to keep going back and forth.
And like Ron said earlier, Mexico and already have a deal. Mexico and China already have another route.
Right.
They're not even worried about that.
But here's the thing: what they don't realize, what the American people don't realize, is every time he does this, China can retaliate. And remember, here's the thing that we have to always remember: we buy more goods from China than China buys from us.
Yes.
We are dependent, reliant on them. Make America great again products are made in China.
That Bible was from China.
The hats are
Everything
from China.
He produces
His ties
is
are from China. Everything is from China.
So when Chris, when you talk about that was the one thing that they got people who didn't know any better
Yes.
to confuse, right? That we had a trade deficit, which is not about a tariff, but it's because we buy more from these countries than they buy from us.
Yes.
Our whole world is made in China. Like you try to go to a store and intentionally try to find things not made in China. It's hard. It's very challenging. I did it in a home goods store one time. I wanted these white plates, right? I intentionally looked on the bottom to see what was not made in China. It was almost impossible.
Impossible.
So people didn't understand it wasn't about tariffs. And since he did that hard chart, experts have come out and explained it. It's about trade deficits, right? Like the one country, the one small place that they were doing 50% tariffs on. Well, he didn't realize that we bought diamonds from that place. And so we bought more than they bought from us because all we were buying was diamonds from them. They bought less from us. So people didn't understand that it wasn't about tariffs. It was about how the trade deficit, how we buy so much because we've outsourced the world. My sister used to work in a sewing factory in Alabama. That's when they used to make clothes in America. So then they started outsourcing it and sending it and getting it from other countries. So everything you wear and get is made in China. So you have a trade deficit because you get so much from these countries and we produce so little to go out to these countries.
Yes.
That's why we have a deficit. If we only sell in China some soybeans or whatever, and then you messed that up. He did that with the soybean farmers who probably voted for him again the last time. And China said, okay, we're just going to buy soybeans from another country.
There you go. Brazil.
Countries are working on where they're going to get these products. And your trade imbalance is not going to improve because they're now going to figure out how they can do more trade with each other and leave us out.
Yes.
Man. And also what Canada said, Canada said, look, we don't need America. We would like to have America. We would like to be friends with America. But this ain't, the person that's in charge now, he said, but that day is over.
Right.
That day is over. And he says, we are going to do trades with our trading European partners.
So let me add on to that, because I think that's an important point. All these other countries are now looking at the U.S. like, all right, well, we can't trust them because of this administration. What people are failing to realize is, the world is looking at America as, all right, well, look, we gave you a chance. You elected this guy once and he did so much damage. How can you, in good conscience, do this again? So say he does come out of power, okay? What's to say you guys are not going to elect someone that is exactly like him or even worse? We can't trust your decision making to put someone in that's going to have the world's best interest. So you know what? We're just going to stop dealing with you altogether. This is so hurtful to this country because it's not only about this quote unquote Trump administration. It's about Americans as a whole and who we pick to represent us on the world stage. We cannot be trusted. And when you lose that trust, it is so hard to get back. It's going to take generations removed.
Yes.
For it to ever go back to where it once was.
Right.
Because people, even though we have short memory spans, this generation, we have long history.
Right.
And the world will look back and say, you know what? We couldn't trust you back from 2016 to 2028. Like you literally destroyed the world market. You upheaved it. A great democracy became an authoritarian country. We can't trust you. You don't know what you're doing. Exactly. So there's deep-seated and long-term things that we're going to be trying to heal from for a very long time. Probably not in our generation.
Probably not.
We won't see that.
No, we won't. We will not see it in our generation.
And they see his vice president and all of the idiotic things that he's saying. So if something happens to him, they're gonna say this is gonna be worse because he's an idiot.
Yes.
And he keeps coming out saying all of these crazy statements and
Vance is an idiot.
He goes to, right? You insult every country you talk about.
He insulted Europe. I mean, like while on European soil,
and called the Chinese people Chinese government peasants.
Yes,
you were dealing with peasants. I say, what do you mean peasants? The peasants who you owe a lot of money to?
The Chinese own a lot of bonds. They own a lot of our debt. Japanese own a lot of our debt. Other countries own a lot of our debt. If they all decided to call in on those debts,
we're in trouble.
We are in trouble. We are already in trouble. Right. But you bring up a good point, Chris, is that around the world, trust has been broken. And the trust is not coming back in our lifetime because no one can trust you said it, the judgment of the American people. This goes beyond Trump. The American people put someone that's a criminal as their leader. The people didn't care enough, the ones that stayed home, to stop it.
Well, no, it just takes one person. Like one person spoiled it for the whole bunch, and we had a bunch of people that spoiled it for everybody.
Right.
Yeah. So the rest of the country, and Trump has done some things that he probably didn't think he could do, like have China and Japan sitting at a negotiation table on how they are going to be trading partners. That happened this week.
Yeah.
Now, for anyone that knows history,
with South Korea
and South Korea,
yeah,
he brought all of the Asian major nations together to have a conversation on trade.
What is it? The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Well,
is that how it goes?
People don't know history. China and Japan were brutal enemies. I mean, they hate. If you walk up to a Chinese person and say, and say, "Oh, are you Japanese?"
That's an insult.
That would be the highest insult because of how the Japanese treated them when they won, when they had what's called the imperial years, and what they did to the Chinese. So you have now the Chinese and the Japanese. I mean, when you look at the history, you guys got to know your history.
Yeah.
These are not people that get along.
You ever visit China, you'll find out about that history and what they feel about the Japanese and what they did with it, kidnapping people and all that.
Kidnapping them, taking their children, putting them into slave labor.
Taking women and children. So
yes.
They have a big history. I went to China 3 times. So.
And they do not. They're like Mortal Kombat, mortal enemies. And Trump managed to bring these two people together this week to figure out how we are going to deal with America, one. Number two, how are we going to work with each other as trading partners?
Right.
Yeah. Ebony and ivory.
Right. And so we don't have to.
And like the other gentleman said, I think he was on Don Lemon's last night. Don Lemon had a great interview with the gentleman from the Atlantic magazine, and he was saying the damage is done. Even if the market went back to where it was, the damage is done. You now have people around the world, around the globe, and Americans are. And I say this with, I just got to say it. Americans are idiots. Most Americans are idiots. And that's just the fact.
Yeah.
Most people in this country are too stupid. Just absolutely brain dead stupid. They have no idea their connection to the globe. They have no idea that we are not going to ever be a manufacturing country again. Now,
they have no idea what it would take to do that, right?
Yes, it will take.
For example, you want to rebuild a plant. Where are you going to get the materials?
Exactly.
Let's think about that.
Because you need Canada for the material.
I grew up in Cleveland. Those steel mills aren't steel mills anymore. If you go to Pennsylvania, go to Pittsburgh, they turn them into shopping malls and all kinds of things.
And condos, yeah.
So now, where you're going to get the materials you need to build the infrastructure.
Yes.
Right? Where are you going to get all that stuff? You're going to have to, your steel is coming from, and lumber, all coming from somebody else.
Everything.
Where are you going to get it? Well, you're not going to get those things any place. And you know, and I think that's where we're not educated enough as a public.
Well, not even that. There's no skilled labor to do it because we're generations removed from that. No one works in the steel mill anymore.
Have y'all
that
seen
was our parents?
Have y'all seen the video that's been going around
about pencils?
About the pencil?
No.
To share about our trade. This video was done, I think, in the 1960s, late 60s or 70s. The pencil. This pencil unifies the world. And it talks about the rubber comes from another country.
Mm-hmm.
The metal that wraps around the top of this pencil comes from another country. The graphite in the pencil, which was considered lead, but it's graphite, comes from another country. The wood that this pencil is made of comes from another country. All of this in this one item. Forget the computers.
Right.
Forget technology. Something as simple as the pencil was the beginning of what we called world global trade. When the pencil was created, it was the beginning of global trade.
Right.
Every piece of item on this pencil comes from a different part of the world.
Right. So hold on. Since we're talking about that, I want to. There was a lot of focus this week on Apple and the iPhone because Apple is looked at as this great American company that produces probably one of the most popular electronic devices in the world. All right, and they talk about not just the iPhone, but let's just take it one little thing. At the bottom of your iPhone, actually, let me pull this out of here so you can see it. At the bottom of your iPhone, there are two little screws. Okay.
Yes.
Those two little screws. The screw itself.
The machinery is made in America.
The machine is made in America, but the press, the actual materials to make the press are made in another country.
Yes.
And then the actual screw is made in another country. So even if Apple decides to completely manufacture, quote unquote, manufacture the iPhone or assemble the iPhone in America, all the different pieces will still be tariffs to come in, and it would actually cost more money to produce it here than it would to produce it outside the country and still have those tariffs.
Right.
So no matter what you do, it's still going to be more money to produce it here, even with the tariffs that he has imposed outside of the country.
And that's not even including.
And that's one little item.
Yes, but that's not even including the labor charge.
That part.
Not including labor.
Because we don't have the skill to do that. And there's a video going around of an AI video.
Yes.
Yeah, of Americans trying to put these in with our big porky fingers, trying to do these little screws. It's like you don't even understand like what it takes to build these little phones, the small hands, and the ingenuity and all the machinery that goes into it. That's why it clearly says on the back of the iPhone, right. Made in China, but designed in California. It's designed here, but it's built elsewhere. And it's not just built in China, it's built in, South America and India now. It's a global thing. We cannot produce this here. And if the tariffs stay in place, come September when quote unquote iPhone season comes out and that new iPhone, that iPhone can go from $999 to $2,300 starting price. Who the hell is going to buy a phone for $2,300 starting price? Not I.
And I think that's what people don't understand, right? Like not understanding that everything, the raw material or where it's produced, it comes from someplace else because we decided, and when we decided to trade with people, we didn't really leave much for us to trade.
Yes, right.
We stopped producing because, oh, we're going to get around higher wages that American people want. Now, I'm not talking to people about lowering the cost of living, but we're going to get around these high wages they want by going to these poorer countries or having illegal sweatshops somewhere and do that way. So
in Florida,
because they don't want to pay. And now the whole thing is, my husband is hilarious because he keep going, oh, that's Project 2020. I said, I tried to get you to read that. And I said, all of this is in there. Union busting is in there. That's one of the reasons they're so focused on union busting, so they can try
child labor's in there.
Child labor laws, make sure they can mess with your health benefits, all of these things, because those countries, they have, like, you take a country like China, there's a universal healthcare system over there. So their people don't worry about health and care the same way we worry about it. Mm-hmm. And then you go over there, the way they're making money. And I'm going to because Ron talked about that pencil, I'm always at an art event, right? I went to one last night. And one of the questions they asked the artist was about materials. And the one guy had done some work, black and white work, and it was using graphite pencils, right? These graphite. And then another guy that I know, he makes these poster-like prints, but each one is like an original. So he was telling me, he said, my paper comes from Germany. That's so right. Tariffs on that paper will increase the cost of his paper, which increase, and he keeps his prices very reasonable. You can buy one of his products for under $2,000 because now he's gonna, in their big size posters, he's gonna have to now raise the prices on what he's charging because his materials are gonna cost so much, right? And so it was interesting hearing them talk about that, and Ron talk about the pencil today, because that is a part of what they work with. Those are part. So if people understand how it impacts us, it impacts every
one of us.
No matter what you use, is going to impact you because of the materials and that it takes to make them. The fact that we don't make these items in America anymore. And so it's going to cost you for everything. Oh, that's cute outfit from over here. But guess what? It's going to cost more money because it's not made here. And we're going to have to pay these people. And you're not going to, what it takes to set up a sewing factory? I went into that sewing factory.
It takes 5 years to build a factory.
And where are you going to build them?
And skill and
that part.
The workers.
So it takes that long to build it. You got to also acquire the land to build it on. Then you're going to have to find and train the people, or you're going to have those people who produce your stuff now come in and train your people.
That's
you
right.
You have to have people
that part.
So because they don't know how to do it. And in our construction industry, you know how that suffers. The more and more they deport, the less skilled workers we're going to have in the construction industry, because we took all of those things out of education in America.
Well, the first time when they started deporting people, this is not even this administration, the administration from 2016.
Right.
They did those original hauls of people and started locking them up and sending them out of the country. In Florida, they had entire job sites that completely shut down because they didn't have workers to do the labor. Right. And this is not like, oh, we're working on a factory. They're building communities, especially in Florida, where they're constantly building new developments. They're building multiple homes at one time. They could have like 4 or 5 different homes going on at the same time. And what they do, these general contractors, what they do is they go to the local gas stations and highways, and they're picking up day laborers and bringing them to these job sites. These guys, and they're paying them pennies on the dollar they would have to normally pay in a quote unquote an American citizen, because American citizens don't want to do quote unquote hard labor. We feel as though we're too good for it. So of course you get people that are willing to do the work to make ends meet, to take care of their families, to send money back to their country of origin to support their families. Yeah. And when you round up these people and get rid of them, then you're cutting your own neck to spite your face, basically. You know what I mean?
Right.
Well, the whole thing is, and I'll just share on this, is that, again, Americans don't understand as a whole, we are global citizens.
Right.
And because we are global citizens, for the most part, there's less conflict in the world.
Right.
Before we became a global manufacturing world, these global manufacturing agreements, these global treaties, these global, negotiations of how we trade has also caused peace in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You don't understand that part.
Right.
There's peace on earth. I mean, there's wars. Don't get me wrong. There's conflict in Congo. There's conflict in Sudan. There's conflict in Ethiopia in the north. There's conflict in Ukraine and Russia. There's conflict in China.
There's conflict in Gaza. We're not going to leave Gaza out.
And Gaza and Yemen. Yes. There's conflict.
Yeah.
However, the world would not be in a peaceful state that it is in, as much peace as we have, if it wasn't for global treaties and agreements on trade. Right. Yeah. Because think about it, the space station in orbiting the Earth, Japan, Russia, America, I think it's Korea, and another country, all had, no, maybe not Korea. I think it's Japan, Russia, America, and there's one more country in there that I'm missing. But they all made the parts to create the one space center that all of the countries get to use.
Right. And even with that, even when you think about NASA, you outsource that.
Yes.
You outsource everything. You started depending on someone else to do that. At one point, you the race with Russia, and then the next thing, Russia controls everything they got space stations and they're helping you rescue people. But we somewhere along the way, because it's the three things that I always talk about: it's power, greed, and control.
Yes, right.
That greed got to be so much for America. Capitalism became, the enemy in a way. In a way, it's in the companies and the heads of these companies trying to see how much wealth they could amass without paying for it, paying much for it. And so therefore you outsource all these things. You in the middle of Alabama.
And also because Americans, but also at least because Americans, cut you up, but also because Americans want cheap goods.
Right. But they want them, but that's all capitalism, right?
You're right. Mm-hmm.
You want it cheaper. But even then, when you take sewing factories that they had in America, they were paid piecework.
Yes.
Which means you were paid by the number of pieces you produced in a day. They were not hourly wage workers. That's and right. So and someone posted about the manufacturing and who would work in the manufacturing. I said, who's going to work in the fields? And one lady's like, manufacturing doesn't mean I absolutely know it's not manufactured, but still, who's going to work in the fields because our produce is coming from someplace?
That's right.
You're going to have field workers when you take those immigrants out of the field. And she went on some tangent. I told her have an amazing day. And everybody said that was a wonderful response. But my point was, which American that's screaming that people are taking their jobs, screaming so loud, they're taking your job. Who's going into the fields? And for the man to come out and say, my husband said, the man said, the federal government workers who are losing their jobs can go and work in the factories and work in the fields.
Yes. Who?
With what health benefits? First of all, you strip them of their health benefits too. All of their benefits are gone. They're not going to get them working in the fields. And I remember the days of my siblings going to the cotton fields, and you get paid by the basket or by the number of pounds you produce, right? You're not paid hourly wages. You're getting paid for what you actually produce in that field. How many rows you plant, how many baskets of something you gather. You're getting paid by that. Which Americans, I mean, American-born natives, which y'all tell me why you were fighting and screaming or getting bamboozled. While you were getting bamboozled
by this idiot.
By this idiot, by the buffoonery, while you were getting bamboozled and thinking that someone had a job. You wasn't in that field. You weren't applying to go to the farmers because the farmers said, I have these jobs, but y'all not coming. Who's going to do that with not even a 15-minute bathroom break? We not got to be. And then while we're thinking about, I looked at a bag I told you I bought a cucumber one day that had the stamp on it said Canada. It was a cucumber. Wrapped it, the long ones in the plastic. It said Canada. It didn't say the U.S. It's Canada. So if you got little things, we don't even
Everything
think
is
small
bought from.
things.
Everything
Everything is
comes from
from
abroad.
someplace.
Everything.
There's nothing on my desk right now that it was made
Everything.
here.
No.
Literally everything.
But if
Remember,
you want, but if I may interject, if you want to do something responsible about trade and trade deficits, you would continue what Biden did.
Yes.
Think about it.
Yes, he would.
He went and said, because they have built all of these conductors and semiconductors and all of the things, the chips, all the chips that we need were built in Hong Kong, Taiwan, and all the other places. I'm going to build a factory here in Ohio. I do believe it was Ohio. And it's going to provide jobs because people are going to be building the factory. Number two, while that's going on, we're going to school people, educate them. And then at the end of the whole process, America will be making its own chips.
Right.
And that was happening. But guess what? The dumb folks in Ohio voted against their own needs, as always, because of their freaking stupidity, that they went against the dude that was going to build a massive chip factory in their state. That was going to provide jobs on so many levels. But we hate Biden because we love Trump. We love Trump. Then Trump canceled. He canceled that. You know that
it was
factory.
A part of the infrastructure. It was a part of the.
It's part of the infrastructure bill.
But they did. Mike Johnson let the cat out of the bag ahead of time. He said they were going to do away with the CHIPS Act. Remember?
Yes, they got rid of the CHIPS
He
Act.
said they were going to do it. But then he said, "Oh well, no." But that was only to say, "Hey, you say that these people aren't going to vote for him."
Yes.
Right.
And they wanted them to vote for him, and they didn't understand anything. What they don't understand, even though it makes sense, it said Biden, so he would destroy it.
Destroy it.
Even if it was going to help people, because his goal is not to help people.
It's like Obamacare. As long as it had his name attached to it, we have to destroy it.
Infrastructure. The whole infrastructure bill was to create jobs in the red states.
They benefited more than anyone else.
They benefited more from the infrastructure bill.
They all voted it down, but they all got the money and took the credit. That is the amazing thing to me. And no one ever calls me about the hypocrisy of it all. But anyway, look, I know we're getting close on time. Yeah. There's one more story that I want to kind of throw out there. I'm going to leave after that.
Go ahead, buddy.
So, and I know this can't be fake news because I saw it with my own eyes. I think it was either yesterday or Tuesday in the White House, the Orange Menace signs an executive order banning men wearing skinny jeans. When I heard this, I literally cackled. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong about this, but I saw it. I think it was on Blue Sky. Someone actually had it them in the White House, in the Oval Office, where he's holding up the thing saying, sign the executive order that men should not wear skinny jeans. This just shows the unseriousness of this administration, where you are dictating people's fashion.
They're stupid. These people are idiots. They're
Go ahead, Lise. MSN said it was on there.
It was on it, right? Okay, I'm not crazy. I was like, I wanted to say this, but I was like, sometimes you don't want to put fake stuff out there, or it's like a deep fake. But I saw it, and it was reported. I'm just like, are we really this is what this country has come to, that the president is creating executive orders dictating what you can and cannot wear?
So this is going for whoever understands this. So will gray sweats be next?
Well, you know, because I'm sure
because you know, gray
he can't fill it. He can't fill it
sweatpants are
out.
very sexual.
He can't fill them out. Certain types of people can't fill them out. So I'm sure that he'll probably come for that next.
That's what I'm saying. And I tell my husband, I say you have to look at it and laugh so often to understand that what we are dealing with in a nutshell,
The
right?
stupidity.
We're dealing with mediocre, ill-equipped, white, quote unquote, heterosexual men. They are mediocre.
And no, and let me tell you,
not just mentally, but physically.
a lot of them are DL. Let's keep it real.
But that's why I always say quote unquote. My quotes are there for a purpose. Because you always, when you the thing you fight the hardest again, and we've seen this over and over again. The more they fight, the harder, and the more they say, as time passes, you see them. You'll notice that they are doing exactly what they were fighting against. You know, they are the ones
projecting
the eyeliner. They wearing the eyeliner and pretend.
Oh, they wearing a lot of stuff.
Lips in their shoes.
Yes, and so we got to understand that point of view. And so all of this stuff is all this smoke and mirrors around their deficiency, their deficiency, and also their own sexual desires. Because I don't care what nobody tell me. That's y'all looking at men and who you looking at a man's Arnold Palmer's body part and talking about it.
That part. And
so we
publicly.
As I begin to round this up,
I didn't say anything bad. I just said in there.
So just so y'all know, and this was also posted by someone, just talking about yesterday's market and what's happening. Step 1, announced tariffs, stock market drops. Step 2, billionaires buy lots of stock. Step 3, immediately roll back tariffs, stock market rebounds, and this is how they funnel more money to the rich. So on that note,
that they're not going to pay taxes on.
Because they don't have to pay taxes. The rich don't have to pay taxes on this money. And that's why they got rid of these folks. But anyway, I'm going to get rid of this off the screen. But I hope you guys learned something today. At least I hope you learned what it is about the bond market that made this reversal possible. Number 2, you understand what the bull market is. You understand what the bear markets are. You understand what is the motivation and our reputation across the globe. You also understand, you also got, as a summary here, now because of Trump, we are losing our allies, and our allies are now reshifting and repositioning themselves. And at the end of the day, America will be left alone. And again, like Chris talked about earlier, and like Don Lemon said, and I keep saying every time they say it on the TV, who are these 75 people that are calling? And if it's all these 75 people calling, why aren't you announcing a deal with them? Right. So yes, they may be calling. They may be calling 75, these 75 countries, but they ain't making deals.
They may be returning your call.
Yeah, hello.
I don't know who called first.
That's right. We don't. So just because 75 countries are being, and you know Trump, he exaggerates everything. He also lies.
Let's not say exaggerates. He lies.
And lies.
He lies. He lies all day.
So guys, anyway, tomorrow is our Focus Friday. We'll be focused probably more on the so if you guys have suggestions, also make sure you slide them into my DM. Also, I just want to make sure I do my announcements. I must do my announcements because first of all, I want to say I gained a new Patreon member, and I am so happy that someone stepped up. I can't tell you who they are, but they stepped up and they didn't just become a Patreon. They came up. They were like, okay, I want to support what we do here. So Patreon, if you enjoy or you learn something from this platform, support it. The best way to pay the bills is for your support, because guess what? StreamYard costs money. Me being here costs money.
A lot of money.
I could be making other money somewhere else, but I'm here with you. So
5 days
become
a
a
week.
Patreon member because it supports. And again, if you don't want to become a Patreon member, you can always donate or whatever through that little $sign on the bottom there. Or, maybe one day I'll have the Cash App and all that stuff there. I haven't done it that way. But again, become a Patreon member. And I am very thankful. I am very thankful to my, I hate this phone. I hate when it does this. Hold on a second.
Just hit the down volume button. It'll mute it.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you, sir. Thank you, buddy. And but yeah, we have our Patreon community that is supporting. So again, let me make sure.
Oh,
Also,
that's a new graphic. I like that one.
that was the YouTube channel for graphic. But this was joined the email listing. So go to the website, ronlewisphotos.com, so that way I can stay in contact you if we are, again, not able to use the internet in the future. At least we'll still be able to maybe send emails out. And we can connect and correspond that way. Also, another major supporter of sponsor of our channel here, Rolling Clouds, who is a cigar company, and they are going to be coming soon as a business that you can be able to shop from. But they are supporting what we do here, and also here is the Patreon. Thank you, Patreon members. Your support helps us create amazing content, and we appreciate you. And I also do event photography. If you are looking for an event photographer, reach out to me. I can do corporate events and regular events for you and your family. Okay, I think I got it all. I think I got everything in there. And so we're looking good there. We're looking good. And let me pop this off the screen. Because, I get stuck. I get stuck. Here we go. And guys, thank you again. Thank you, Elise, and thank you, Chris, for joining me on this platform today. But again, remember, guys, we are global citizens, and if anyone tells you differently, they are not too smart. They are not operating with their full light bulb on. They do not know. We are all connected. We are all important. We are all necessary to this thing called humanity.
Absolutely. And let's not forget how we got back to the past. The
That's
Supreme Court effery that took place.
There you go.
Let's not forget the Supreme Court is at the core of all of this.
Yes. And we need to vote. But I'm not going to go there. We'll talk about that tomorrow. But we definitely need to vote, and get ready for a overwhelming voting so that way we can do this in the midterms. But if we still have a country by the midterms, but that's a whole nother story by then.
There are a lot of state and local elections coming up this year.
The local elections is where it matters.
Yes.
Okay, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. And again, love you much. And see you tomorrow. Okay, later. Right. Hello, and thank you for joining us today. Make sure you hit the like, the subscribe, and leave a comment on this video. I would love to hear from you. Thank you again. Until I see you next time.